some other best practices too. Like part of it is to be known, right? You got to be known and liked and trusted, known, liked, and trusted in order to get deals, especially the owner financing ones. And so, some of the things we've intentionally done is to be known. And how you get known is like you actively participate, right? You go to all the local meetings, you get to know all the franchisees, you go out to lunch, like you create relationships with them. And then you go to the national conferences, you can participate on the franchise advisory committees. Like I'm on all the boards, of course. All that helps you become known. The other thing we've done is like during COVID, I was hosting like Zoom mastermind calls for franchisees, for Midas franchisees. So I would put it on, Midas help promote it, but I'd get 70 franchisees on a call to talk for an hour about how do we drive gross profit, how do we do hiring, tires, alignments, whatever the topic I picked that day. And so then me as the host of it becomes like the star of the show. So people get to know me. I also did interviews with like successful franchisees on that same like style of format. And so anyway, if you're looking to buy, like you got to get known, and you can leverage the internet and leverage community to make it happen.
Welcome to the Franchise Founders Podcast. We are on a mission to help aspiring entrepreneurs just like you take action through franchise ownership,
allowing you to obtain more financial freedom, time with family, and ultimately a business that can run on its own without you.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Founders Podcast. Very excited about this episode. And before I introduce our guest, I'm going to get into a little bit of what we are. I'm very excited about Brian being on this podcast because it's really the direction that we're looking to go, which is working and talking with more franchisees, multi-unit franchisees especially, who could tell their story of how they went from 1, 2, 3 locations and expanded into an empire. It's pretty interesting. I've learned over the years that there's sometimes franchisees that have multi-units that are more powerful or more financially capable than the franchisor they're a part of. It's unbelievable. If you look at Dunkin' Donuts, the second largest franchisee next to Hess, is two brothers that own and operate. I think it's like over 300. I forget the exact amount of Dunkin' Donuts, but they've went from 1 to 2. I have a friend of mine that owns 120 Popeyes. Him and his brother, they just kept acquiring them. And so the purpose of this episode is really to get into Brian's story. And if you're a franchisee or a potential franchisee, a great way to learn about where you can go from one to multi-unit and how the opportunities are really endless as a franchisee. So without further ado, I've got Brian Beers here on the call. Brian is an entrepreneur who's grown a small family auto repair franchise business into 30 locations, 30 enterprise locations, generating over $32 million in revenue per year, and they're continuing to grow. Nowhere near done. They haven't scratched the surface. And what they do is they roll up franchises. They use owner financing to acquire a lot of the businesses and running a family business. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Awesome, cool. Thanks for the intro and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really excited because I don't think we've had a guest in this type of background before. So I guess to start, could you just give a little background on your story?
Yeah, sure. So my family has been in the Midas business since it goes back to the 60s. So my dad's uncle had shops up in Boston, and it must have been pretty early in the days. I mean, less than 10 years old. Midas at the time, I think it started in the 50s, and so he joined in the 60s, had success. I think he had 8 or 9 locations, just crushing it. And my dad, in 1976, was 22 years old, looking for something to do. So him and my granddad kind of started together with one location. And, over the years, just opened up new locations, acquired kind of corporate locations, other franchisees, bought and sold, and, supported our family all through, life. And anyway, 2010 comes along. I graduate college and decided I would join the family business. And at the time, we had 6 locations, in the Philadelphia market. And so I knew nothing about cars. I knew nothing about business besides what I learned in college. And so I join. I start networking with other franchisees. I try to learn best practices. I try to breathed new life into the business because it was kind of, tired at the point. My dad and uncle were ready to retire and kind of get out of it. And so I breathed new life and eventually take it over. And my brother joins in 2016. We decided, we would start growing because it was the only way we could make more money because, my dad owned the company. And so, we acquired, 2 locations that year, and then as a kind of separate entity that my brother and I owned, but ran it all as, as one deal. And then the next year we bought another one and another one and another one. And then, today we own 30. And we bought dad and my uncle out a couple years ago. And anyway, now we're in Philly and North Jersey and a market called Allentown, which is about an hour north of here. So
you made that sound very easy. Amazing story. So really cool. First of all, that like I always think, I don't have kids yet, but I always envision probably a lot of business owners do, like their kids someday, getting into the business and taking it beyond anywhere, probably then the vision that your dad and uncle had. So that's really, really interesting. What, so you got into it with 6 locations and you went and bought the first business and then another and another. Could you talk to that process of how you guys are able to continue to acquire units?
Yeah, so most of ours, 24 of the 26 have been acquired with owner financing, which is basically a simple process where instead of us going to the bank to buy out the business, the seller of the business becomes the bank. And so, we negotiate, the purchase agreement, we negotiate a note and collateral, and we make a down payment to the seller, and then we make monthly payments of, principal and interest, just like you would a bank. And, but we've gotten very good at it. Like I've done millions of dollars of acquisitions, this way. And I think there's a couple unique things that make it advantageous of doing it in a franchise versus like an independent business that I'd be happy to kind of dive into. But, it's what has allowed us to grow with no outside money, no private money. I've only gone to a bank one time for an acquisition loan, which was the first one because I didn't know this existed. And it's an amazing tool to let somebody grow and control ownership. And our model is just been like a lot of the money we make, we're just putting back into the business to continue to buy more and kind of have this compound effect because we could get a ridiculous return on our money by buying another shop, than putting in the stock market or real estate or anywhere else we can put it. So,
right. The multiple on the franchisee at high amounts of units is P's coming into that space too, as much as they do in the franchisor side too, if that's ever an exit goal. So this is really interesting because you're able to acquire the business. Obviously the seller knows that you're the best buyer is a strategic buyer. So they know you're going to work. The royalties are tracked, so it's kind of hard to like get around, revenue numbers. Brian, do they typically? I assume for the seller, the benefit too is, one, the tax liabilities are mitigated, right? Because it's extended over years. Are they getting and maybe it depends on each deal, but do they sometimes get themselves a premium because they could get a higher multiple because it's stretched out?
Yeah, so it goes both ways. They're getting a price that no bank would finance one way or another, right? Like in some cases where they want too much money, like for the cash flow that they're generating. So, we're a value add buyer in a lot of cases where we're buying underperforming locations and we know that are doing whatever, $600,000 a year and losing money or breaking even. And, our model is we go in there and we, put our systems in place, even though it's a franchise, like you still have your own systems. And so, we put our systems, our people, our marketing, everything that we do. And, we know that we can get that location in the first year, probably from 600 to 800 and it's starting to make money. And, maybe some of them we can get to $1 million or more. And so, the valuation that I put on the existing cash flow, we kind of determine a price based on that, but like, I know that my results are going to be much better than what, what's currently doing. And so in a lot of cases, like I bought a couple locations in Jersey that were basically losing money, 3 locations, basically losing money. And I, bought them for, $475,000 total price. Right. But the deal was structured that we paid like $50,000 down and like $6,000 a month was the deal. So like we get into these 3 stores, 50 grand down. Immediately we're going in there like there's no lights in the building. Like the guys are wearing flashlights on their head. Like it's ridiculous. They have 2 people staffed in a store where it should have 6. They need to be painted. Like, so immediately we staff the store, we fix the lights, we fix the equipment. And I mean, one of the stores got pumping to over 100,000 a month in sales, like literally 3 months later. So that deal, like, you know, is totally, you know, cash flowed. And so that's one half of it. The other part of it is, you know, we've done other deals where very good performing stores doing over 1.1 million a store, good cash flow, good business. And I could have gone to the bank. I could have got a loan on that, but he was willing to do it. An awesome deal. I put 50 grand down on that one to buy 5 locations, and it got a 13-year note at like below market interest. And you know, just it's, you can do anything you want with it. And so once you have the trust and you're a good buyer, like, and you are a good operator and people want to do business with you, like you can make it anything you want to make it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're like a franchisor or franchisees, because you're going in, you're applying best practices, and you know, you have a management team. I assume maybe you even have some relationship, like if I was corporate, you guys are, as a company, you're exactly who I want to go to. I had looked at something where it was like that, where the franchisor said, hey, look, like if you want to buy to distress franchisee for a deal, right, to help get a soft, because the other thing is you're providing a soft landing for the business owner that maybe decides or realizes they're not a great owner of a Midas. You're giving them that opportunity to get out with a soft landing.
Oh yeah, totally. And we're the, you know, we try to be the easy button. And this is like what I recommend for anybody in the franchising is like, be the person who's like easy to deal with. And that doesn't mean we're soft, but like, you know, we communicate well, like they're not waiting on us for things. Like, our goal is to have a win-win scenario where there's other guys who have a reputation of being very difficult to work with and like throw temper tantrums and like will pull out at the last minute, like, or they don't treat their employees right. They have high turnover. They have bad customer reputation. Like, where our goal is to keep everybody who's currently employed and give them a shot, like, in our system. And some of them thrive. Some of the guys literally will double their income, and because they're doubling the business, and just crush it under us. And then other guys, they're not following. They're lazy. Like they're not for us. But like, you know, we give everybody a shot. We allow them to grow. And so, like, you know, people like to work with us. And that's like, if you can become that guy who's a good operator and you're friendly and people know you, like, that, it's easy to get the deals. At least,
and keep that culture no matter what. If you have 100 or 1,000 locations. It's such funny timing that we're talking about this, because my background is in franchise development, lead generation at a company that was doing lead generation development, and then exited in May. And, you know, for months couldn't really wrap my head around the idea of not doing that, because it's what I did since I was like 22 years old. And then started taking some time to say, all right, well, like, what about franchisee ownership, franchisor? You know, there's other ways to make, you know, a living and make an impact. And it's interesting because I was on Biz Buy Sell the other day, looking at, like, you know, I saw these tree businesses, and I saw that I actually, it's ignorant of me, but I couldn't believe one of them had seller financing of 80%. And I couldn't believe that. I called the broker and said, like, what's going on? What's wrong with this? And I'll have to pick your brain more, but I couldn't believe that I could seller finance one, buy the other. You know, you're putting 20% down with the seller financing in this deal, and then you could merge the two and take, you know, take best practice, take management, you know, managers and put them into it. And I guess for you too, you're capitalized, right? So you're able to go in, like you said, paint the business and, you know, put the right amount of staff in there.
But a lot of times, honestly, we're using like the cash flow from the business that we just bought to pay for all that stuff.
Right, like, you're not living off that cash flow. So
I'm not, and because we live kind of conservatively, and our goal is just to kind of build this thing. And like, there's a lot of, you get a lot of buying power at scale. Like we negotiate much better contracts with our vendors, like ridiculously better contracts. And my brother's like a great negotiator. He like beats the shit out of them. And because he's really just like, and I'm like, that's good enough. And he's like, no, we got to get better. But so you can leverage all that, and then we can leverage our people, and we have the structure and the overhead. So for like, we have district managers, right, that oversee X amount of stores, and they have a couple of the markets have capacity, so I could add 5 more locations and not have a single dollar of additional like corporate overhead, because I've kind of got it all covered, and we have capacity. We're not at capacity. Versus I go into a brand new market, then obviously we're gonna have overhead there, and so you start to, as you have scale, like it just becomes easier and more profitable to add locations. And under 80%, I've got 90%, I've got 97%, but with the goal then of, honestly, then a lot of times, a lot of the cash flow from those new acquisitions is just going right back into the business to upgrade all the things that are deferred maintenance. Like we joke that like we're not going to make any money the first year, and because it's all just like, on the P&L there might be money, but all the cash is going back into the business, which is fine. Like, and that's like that's our goal. Is then we're good for then years, right? And especially in a capital intensive business like Midas, where there's equipment and roofs and all the crap. But it's fine.
It's incredible. So as a corporation, between your 30 units, you've got 32 million in system.
Yeah, 36, but yeah.
36. Well, it went up since you filled out your form.
Yeah, I know, it's been a while. I know we did another acquisition. Yeah, that's part of it.
And I imagine how does that work so some of them, I guess it's like a hockey stick, right? You're putting front loading, the cash is going into improving it, and then it goes up. So I imagine the overall margin is pretty strong on that.
Yeah, from a P&L, it's not bad, but like I said, a lot of it, at least because a lot of my growth has been recent. Like we had 12 locations last May, and today I have 30. So so like we did a 7 chunk, and then a 3, and then a 1, and then a 5, and then a whatever. Like, because we lined up these things, and they take like 6 months to close. So some of these, like we're finishing up a deal, and then we're starting conversations on the next one. But the time that one closes, it's 6 months later. And so anyway, right now we're kind of like really getting our feet under, because as the company grows in size, like the management structure changes. Like how I need to manage it is completely different from when I was running 6 locations by myself to now, running a team of people, the COO and 5 district managers and the big infrastructure. Like you can read all the books you want, but like once you start doing it, or it's way different.
Oh yeah.
So,
what does that org chart look like, Brian? So like, what does the org chart look like?
Yeah. So currently it's my brother and I, I'm the president. He's like vice president. On the operations side, we have a COO who we recently hired, 20 years in the military, like chief of staff, special ops, like really systems organized, great people. And then he oversees, we have 5 district managers, and each one of those 5 district managers oversees roughly 6 locations each. That they'll be kind of the direct report for those locations with, hiring and customer service issues and training and, maintenance and whatever, all the stuff related there. And then each store has like a store manager, usually an assistant manager. And then, anywhere from 3 to 6 technicians.
You said, I think you mentioned, I assume you need a CFO with all the.
Oh yeah. So that's like operations. And then on the office side, we have a CFO. We actually only have 2 in US people, and then the rest of our staff is all in the Philippines.
Bookkeeping and
they do accounts payable and general accounting, and we've 6 or I don't even know. It keeps growing. So they do all the accounts payable, because we have a lot of accounts payable. I mean, we're buying millions of dollars of automotive parts and tires in like $100 increments, and so there's a lot of like reconciling that we're still figuring all that stuff out, because there's just a tremendous amount of volume and kind of due diligence on our side to ensure we have good profitability there.
Yeah, and now a lot of our listeners are potential franchisees, or maybe already and they're thinking of expanding. So with your brother, like when you talk about partnerships, I assume you guys it sounds like you have opposite skill sets, right? Like what would you say the difference between you guys?
Yeah. So he's like, he's really good with the technology in the back office. And, a lot of the things we do are kind of tech focused, where we've, have our own like reporting suite and can pull all the numbers. Like we have better reporting than the corporate does. And some of the 100 plus franchisee locations are 3 or 4 times bigger than us. Like our systems are as equivalent. Like, we've built them through Excel macros and SQL and shit. So anyway, he runs all that, and then kind of like we're a lot more on the back office administrative side of it, and then I'm more the front facing, kind of working with the operations side of it. and the relationships with the other franchisees and kind of the growth side of it as well.
Yeah, I assume like the acquisition side is somewhat of a full-time job too, right? Navigating those deals.
Yeah. And so like one of the best practices we have is like we have this thing called a deal tracker, and every Monday we sort of click up list and we kind of go through it and say, hey, what are the, we have high priority, medium, low, whatever, and any of the high priority stuff, whether it's a deal or like a new technology we're rolling out, like we're rolling out digital inspections, like they're using an iPad to inspect the cars or whatever. Or it's like, hey, this is a lead in our funnel, another location, another market. Then we're just, every week, like, is there an update? Is there an action we need to do? Whether it's a touch point, work on the analysis, or some of them just say, hey, they said they want to touch base in November or December, whatever it is. And we'll just put a due date and circle back then and touch base. So kind of have this constant rhythm of staying up on the things, because otherwise, like, I don't know, you forget about deals and they fall through, and we've kind of been pretty active about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because yours is all in one franchise system. So I assume conferences are a great acquisition opportunity, lead gen for you.
Yeah.
Do you run
some other best practices too? Like part of it is to be known, right? You got to be known and liked and trusted, in order to get deals, especially the owner financing ones. And so, some of the things we've intentionally done is to be known. And how you get known is like you actively participate, right? You go to all the local meetings, you get to know all the franchisees, you go out to lunch, like you create relationships with them. And then you go to the national conferences, you can participate on the franchise advisory committees. Like I'm on all the boards, of course. All that helps you become known. The other thing we've done is like during COVID, I was hosting like Zoom mastermind calls for franchisees, for my franchisees. So I would put it on, might just help promote it, but I'd get 70 franchisees on a call to talk for an hour about how do we drive gross profit, how do we do hiring, tires, alignments, whatever the topic I picked that day. And so then me as the host of it becomes like the star of the show, so people get to know me. I also did interviews with like successful franchisees on that same like style of format. And so anyway, if you're looking to buy, like you got to get known, and you can leverage the internet and leverage community to make it happen.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do through I was just on a podcast before this one. I was talking about if you're a franchisor, you just started franchising, you should be like a lunatic, like Ray Kroc in the movie The Founder. On the golf course, what do you do? Yeah. Franchise. Your family, you try to sell units to your, your next door neighbor.
That's going to be you?
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. You get me. I personally, so I'm in a transition right now, right, where I'm deciding what to do next. I hate it, quite frankly, because there's so many options. I just want to choose one and I was just saying, someone yesterday was calling me. I was like, look, if it's not at this point, if it's not in this narrow, parameters of what I think I'm going to do, I don't really want to hear about it, because it's easy to get pulled in a million directions.
The shiny object. Yeah, I have that.
Just like do one thing. And I mean, like for you, like, I mean, you could just repeat this, get to 100, 200 locations. I can't even imagine, what that would look like. So.
Yep. Yeah. And at a certain point, you got to decide. I mean, this is what we're trying to battle now or figure out is like what, there's two different paths you go. One path is you say, hey, we're going to stay local. We build it out. We can build out probably 50 locations within an hour and a half radius. If we went down to DC, Baltimore, we added new locations, we built new locations, right? We go up north a little bit. That's like one option. Or there's this other option that says, hey, I'm willing to get on a plane. I'm willing to deal with different time zones. Then you go anywhere in the country. But it also kind of complicates the business to a degree too. So that's what I don't know. That's the next step for us, is just figuring out how complicated do we want to make it. And then
I have a feeling in a year, if we get back on a podcast, you'll be all over that.
Yeah, probably. I know. A lot of it's now. It's because we're still settling in and just getting our feet under from a lot of the recent growth. But we can figure it out. That's one of my big like mantras is like, why not me? Like if other people can do it, like why can't I do it? Like they're not any smarter, they're not any more educated. Like, why not? Why can't I figure it out? So I think if someone believes that and they truly believe it, like they can do anything they want in the world. So
yeah, a little grit and tenacity and some momentum too, right? You've got the momentum now to pull you kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. So you're doing that. You're doing the multi-unit ownership, and you're also I think recently before we started recording, you started doing some franchise coaching as well.
Yeah. So I have a podcast, Business with Beers. I've had it for, I don't know, I'm about to launch my 100th episode now. And I'm active on Twitter and talking about all this stuff. How do you buy a franchise? How do you build a franchise? How do you build wealth through franchising? Like a lot of people just aren't talking about it, right? Because they think it's like chucking a truck or whatever, and they think it's small, and they think it's you're basically a corporate employee and blah blah blah. Which is, I mean, could be true if you want that to be true. There's another story that says you can build an 8-figure business out of it, a 9-figure business out of it, and they're just guys like me and you. Like it's nothing special. You just work the process. So anyway, I'm working on teaching people that. And so, I have a lot of people come to me asking, how do I find a franchise, which I look out for? How do I run due diligence? I've started doing consulting, coaching, brokerage, whatever you want to call it, but basically just help play matchmaker.
There's a million names for it.
At the end of the day, the goal is just to help people find something that fits them. Like, and what fits me is going to be different than what fits you or anybody else. So that's what really matters. Just find someone who listens and knows what the hell they're talking about. So,
well, let me know when you want a reverse invite to your podcast. I'll be 101.
Yeah, happy to. Yep. Franchise Fridays. I'm launching a second series to be 100% focused on franchise. Cause then I also talk to real estate guys and like scaling just businesses in general and all that stuff. So
do you like send beers, or do people get beers before?
One or two have, but most people don't, because it's usually like 10 a.m. and it's it's way too early.
Yeah, it's true. Well, very cool. So if the audience wants to get in touch with you, pick your brain about multi-unit, how do they get in touch, Brian?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. I mean, if they're on Twitter, just at Brian Beers. Like I said, I'm pretty active there. I'm also on LinkedIn a little bit. And then I have a website, brianbeers.com. I'm sure you'll link it all up. That has a link to a newsletter. So, but yeah, happy to reach out. Happy to set up a call, chat about it. I love it. And I think it's an awesome opportunity for people. So
it's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Founders Podcast.
If you want our help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business to anything in between, shoot us an email at franchisefounders@gmail.com.